Okay, let's call this meeting of the Audit Committee for the City of Gainesville for March 6, 2023 to order. Madam Clerk,
Our first item is the adoption of the agenda.
is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
All right. We have a motion and a second to adopt the agenda. Any concerns, questions? Okay. All right. Sure, go ahead. We'll call for.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Nathan Scott. So I didn't know whether you would have a motion to approve the minutes, but with respect to the adoption of the agenda, I think there may be a typographical error in the minutes from the December in terms of when the CAFR report was approved. I haven't verified that yet, but there was a concern I was asked to express to the board. So we could double check that. Greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. So just to give time to check those, let's, if you're amenable, let's move that till the next meeting. Okay. So the motion now is to be clear, to adopt the agenda without approval of the minutes moving forward, and then we'll put that toward the next meeting. Okay.
So moved, sure.
Okay. All right, all in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. Madam Clerk.
Our next item is our business discussion items, starting with 2023-225, External Quality Control Review of the City Auditor's Office for the period October 1, 2019 through September 30th, 2022, with the recommendation that the Audit Committee review, approve, and recommend the City Commission accept the External Quality Control Review Report prepared by the Association of Local Government Auditors Review Team and the City Auditor's response.
Madam Auditor.
Yes. Good afternoon, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Committee Member Monk, Commissioner Chestnut, and everyone who's on the dais. All right, we are here to present audit reports on today and an update of activities and accomplishments over the last quarter. I'm Brecca Anderson, Interim City Auditor. Our team is dedicated to the professional practice of internal auditing and the city, and look forward to sharing these updates on today. First, I'd like to, if I may, I'd like to introduce a new team member we have. I'd like to introduce Ms. Lisa Sedzik. She's an IT audit manager. Lisa joined the City Auditor's Office on January 9th and brings a wealth of knowledge in IT audit. Lisa?
Welcome.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and Committee Member Monk, as well as Commissioner Chestnut and City Attorney. My name is Lisa Sedzik, as Brecca indicated, and I joined the City of Gainesville in January as the IT Audit Manager. Having lived in Gainesville most of my life, I have worked at the local teaching hospital. I have also worked at the local health plan, as well as working as a healthcare consultant in security out of Georgia. I have over 15 years of IT audit experience, 10 years in litigation and corporate law as a paralegal, and have overseen the SOC 2 line at the consulting firm. I hold office on 2 local board of directors, one of which is the local chapter of the Institute of Internal Auditors, where I have served for the last 8 years. I'm excited to be working at the city. I look forward to working with you. I look forward to working with the city and GRU and sharing my experience and knowledge. Thank you for the opportunity to introduce myself.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. Okay, so now we're going to talk about I'd like to present to you our peer review. All right, and at the end of January, we had 2 individuals, 2 professionals, if I could have the overhead, please. 2 professionals who conducted our peer review. It's our annual our triennial peer reviews every 3 years. We receive a peer review from the Association of Local Government Auditors, and they come into our office and they review all of our practices against the standards and against to ensure that we are in compliance with the standards that we follow. So of course, we know that we did recently make a change in the last, since 2020, we became an Orange Book shop. That includes that we follow, not only do we follow the government auditing standards, we also follow the international standards for the professional practice of internal auditing, also known as the Professional Practices Framework. That is a mouthful. However, they do guide internal auditing as a profession as well. And so I'm glad to say that we did receive a pass result, and we also received accolades from, they kind of set up shop where we were and looked into our activities, our work papers, our reports, and we received this management letter from them as well. Typically, this would include some needs improvement areas or management letter opportunities. However, we're happy to say that we receive accolades in this area in ensuring that our work papers are well organized, also that the audit reports are clear, concise, and then also with all of the turnover that happened a few years ago, that we continue to have to produce quality audits during that time. So humbly, I'm so thankful for our team and how hard they work. They're just a good group of people and have the profession of internal audit in the city in their hearts. Okay? Thank you for that. Also, lastly, if we do good, when we do well, we get a certificate. Here's the certificate of compliance, ensuring that we suitably designed our internal quality control system, and that we provide reasonable assurance of compliance with government auditing standards and the IPPF. Any questions?
Any members, any questions or comments? Okay. Yes, sir.
I would like to congratulate you. I've served on numerous quality control review before, and it is not that common to have accolades spelled out instead of recommendations and criticism. So you are to be commended for that.
Thank you.
Very good. That was actually a question that I was going to ask is, does this look like others? But it sounds like it looks better than a lot of others. So, excellent. Well, thank you so much for your service with us and the whole department. It is much appreciated, and you get a virtual pat on the back from all of us. Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so that is actually the recommendation on that would be next. And accept, review, approve, and recommend. Excuse me, clerk's office.
Does someone make a staff recommendation or?
Sure. I move that we accept staff recommendation.
Second?
We have a motion and a second to accept staff recommendations. Any comments from the public? Okay. All right, back to the committee. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you, Madam Auditor. Madam Clerk.
Our next item is 2023-226, 2022 Annual Report, Risk Assessment and Audit Plan, with a recommendation that the Audit Committee review, approve, and recommend the City Commission accept the City Auditor's Report and Audit Plan.
Thank you. Interim City Auditor Brecca Anderson. Okay, so each year we conduct an annual report. We write an annual report which culminates our risk assessment review, and any of those results may be placed into the audit plan. So we just completed our 2022 annual report, and so this is what we're looking at here. Decided to use the overhead. It's a little easier than the PDF, what broadcast told me. Okay, all right. So I'm gonna start this. All right. Okay, so we've been around for 43 years. We've been around for 43 years in the city of Gainesville, ensuring that we provide independent and objective auditing services to the city of Gainesville. Our mission, to ensure that we accomplish our mission, to carry out the mission, we perform risk-based audits, advisory services, special projects, management requests, and investigations as needed. Okay? And I don't know if anybody's had a chance to kind of read through that report. It's a little lengthy, but it's what we do. All right. Activities and accomplishments. This chart here just kind of shows some of the things that we've accomplished throughout the year. For the calendar year of 2022, we completed audit and advisory services, as you can see here. These are the audit and the completed engagements for 2022, which included a citywide gift card audit, Florida Highway Safety and Motor Vehicle Data Exchange Compliance Audit, GCRA Project and Fiscal Management Audit, a ARPA Grant Compliance Audit Phase 1, Citywide Cybersecurity Phase 2 Audit, RTS Limited Scope Review, and Public Records Policy Compliance Audit. One note on the ARPA, I think there's a question on the other evening about whether or not it's on the audit plan. It is not on the audit plan. The Phase 2 is not, because that's something we complete after expenditures have started flowing, so we would end up doing an add to the audit plan when that happens. We have to have enough to look at. There's not like a lot of activity yet for us to look at expenditures, so that's something that you'll see coming back once we have something to look at. Okay? Okay, we also completed 4 special projects. We reviewed management's due diligence results for unsolicited proposal, internal control follow-up, GRU Deer Haven Generating Station, the fraud risk management policy. We know that came out, we completed that in 2021, but we also instituted the policy awareness and training module through Workday. So all staff can actually take and understand more about fraud risk management, what our requirements and what our responsibilities are as team members of the City of Gainesville to help mitigate and hopefully rid fraud. That's our goal, right? Okay. Audit issue follow-up program. I think everybody's pretty familiar with that. In our audit issue follow-up program, we began by identifying risk during an audit that results in an audit issue. Internal audit and management agree on the action plan to remediate the risk to an acceptable level. And then we periodically check with management on their action plan progress. And as you know, we report it back at the quarterly, during our audit committee meetings on a quarterly report. Any past due audit issue items are also highlighted. Okay, audit issue statistics for last year. We did have 19 open, and you'll see that we ended with 16 open because we add throughout the year, some are closed, so on and so forth. We had 16 that closed in 2022 as well. For several areas, we had 2 in the affirmative action plan audit, and I'll just kind of highlight one more. Also, like with the GRU badge access, there were some that were implemented, and then also some with the body-worn camera compliance audit. And also one that is notable as well, administration and management of Evergreen Cemetery operations audit. Management successfully implemented and closed those audit issues. So management is to be commended for those. And you'll see the impacted departments there on the table. I'd like to highlight what management's doing. Next, we have fraud, waste, and abuse on page 8. That's our fraud, waste, and abuse hotline. We do facilitate and administer that hotline through a contracted third-party lighthouse. And so people call in, enter the information, their report, their anonymous reports online on the website. So there are several ways to actually report. And so I wanted to make sure I had this information. Mayor Pro Tem Duncan Walker had mentioned before about how many we closed or what kind of breakdown we have. So we do have those there for fiscal year 2022, that there were 4 open, 28 closed, and there were 27 new cases. If you look below there where it starts with approximately, it shows what we did with those reports. Half were referred to human resources or management. So sometimes they're calling, it's not a fraud, it's just something we need to relay over to management. It looks like that's happening about half the time. And then also most matters are categorized as ethics, code of conduct, or policy violation concerns, and then so on and so forth. You have the breakdown there for you.
Thank
Okay?
you very much for that, Brecca.
You're welcome. Okay. Annual training for city commissioners, boards, and committees, and city leadership. This is the Florida Commission on Ethics, which we just had in December. We did have a gentleman who came and did that for the 2nd year in a row. He did a really good job, and so we are working on bringing him back for next year.
I do hope we can do that again next year. I think that was really useful to me and to most folks who were able to be there.
Yes. And we have a plan, Mayor. We have a plan to ensure that we have some more scenarios as well. have time for questions at the end.
Very good.
Okay. City of Gainesville external audits. Just very briefly, just want to highlight this. We know that our office facilitates the selection of the general government and GRU external financial statement audits. We oversee the administration of the contracts. However, we are not management and we don't direct their activities for the finance and accounting staff. The results of the audits are presented to the Audit Committee, as we will have one coming up soon for GRU. Results and any findings are communicated by the external auditor to those charged with governance and to management. Okay, so we also have the Florida Auditor General operational audit at the city of Gainesville that was released in January 10th, 2022, and we have a slide on that during our quarterly update. This section here, I'm not going to go back through. That's our quality insurance program. I would like to, quality assurance and improvement program. We did update our policies and procedures and guidelines to ensure that we are abiding by the GAGAS, which are the generally accepted government auditing standards, and the Institute of Internal Auditors framework, which makes us an orange shop. Yellow and red makes orange. So we did do that, and then we underwent the peer review. Okay, our team, we had a team building event on last year. We got a chance to go out to Kanapaha Water Reclamation Facility, learned a lot about how the city works. So it was really a great opportunity for us to do that. And we also visited the Cotton Club, learned some about Gainesville history, a lot of Gainesville history I did not know, and visited the Florida Museum of Natural History. Okay, and our team always ensures that we conduct our professional development certifications, and we also participate in several associations, as Lisa just mentioned, one that she participates in. Now we're down to the enterprise risk assessment on page 11. We just talked about that, but I would like to let you know that we performed a risk assessment to assess the city's risk exposure and ensure internal audit resources are allocated to audit engagements that are based on risk. We want to ensure that we focus on things that are moderate to high risk, not something that just because it's its turn that we're looking at it. It's just the risk and impact to the city. We assess the risk exposure based on the likelihood that it would occur and the impact or significance the risk would pose for the organization if it did occur. In our approach, if you want to take a look at this in your leisure, this has our example of risk categories so you can understand or be reminded of the risk categories that these are some examples. I'm sure it's not all encompassing, and if you want to understand our enterprise risk assessment process, we have it here in this nifty little diagram. So just to kind of go over our approach just briefly. Micro risk factors. So what we did is that we met with management, conducted interviews, identified moderate to high risk areas, and ranked and conducted our analysis to identify the risks within the city. Staffing and talent management rose to the top. ERP system data reliability was commonly communicated by management, staff, and city leaders. Utility billing was frequently communicated as well, and the management of utility debt. And the next most significant was the ability to manage cybersecurity and the city's infrastructure needs. On page 14, briefly. Macro factors. This just kind of shows some of the things, excuse me. There we go. On page 14, we also conduct research on macro or external risk factors that could impact our operations. Several risks mirror those communicated by management and staff, such as the talent management, cybersecurity, so on and so forth. You'll see it listed here. A lot of good information out there. So as we culminated and finished our risk assessment for our internal audit plan, it came right down to a couple of weeks ago when we finished up. So because of that, we know that we have some additional risks that have been discussed in light of management addressing priorities from the February 2023 Joint Legislative Auditing Committee meeting. We propose not making any changes to the audit plan. We have a full audit plan already. We want to do that to make sure that we have the flexibility that if we need to, we're going to reevaluate as the city decides on direction, and we'll adjust our plan with any needs that needs to occur to address those, any changes that management is making. We'll highlight risk and provide independent and objective reviews of approaches. And the rest is just our audit plan that you can read in your leisure. It remains unchanged from last year. Any questions?
Committee members?
Rebecca, first of all, thank you for your work on this, and I do know that you have kind of stepped into this. I don't know that we should say midway, but you stepped into this having served in a different capacity in that office, and so it's not lost on me that you are jumping full on in at this particular point in a schedule of events and audits that's been very, very full, and so I want to thank you for that right off the top. I did have a question that has something to do with, I guess, sort of what we found versus what has been found outside by JLAC. One of the audits that we had done was on the Gainesville Community Reinvestment Agency. And so did you see in what we found any overlap, any areas of concern? Can you speak to us a little bit about the findings from our internal audit versus what JLAC's concerns were? Was there anything that you saw that was different, anything that stuck out or jumped out at you?
I don't have that with me. It's in my briefcase.
And I'm sorry, I certainly didn't mean to put you on the spot so much in that regard. And if we need to table that for a later discussion, I certainly am willing to do that. But that's kind of something that I'm interested in knowing.
Project management definitely was like kind of the highlight that I do recall off the top of my head. I can pull the report to see whatever else. We did complete that, I think, early last year, so I just don't remember each area, but we do have follow-up coming up at the end of fiscal year 23. So September of 2023 is the follow-up, is when the action plans are supposed to be implemented.
Absolutely. Thank you, Brecca.
You're welcome.
I conclude.
Okay. Mr. Testa, anything you want to add?
No, thanks.
All right. Mr. Mock? Okay. Ms. Anderson, thank you so much for this. And I say that as if you would be relinquishing, and you will not. You'll be doing the next piece too, I'm sure, but
Okay.
much appreciated. This is always great work from your office. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Do we need a motion on that one?
I move staff's recommendation.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve staff recommendations. Is there any public comment?
May I have the overhead and streaming audio, please? Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners, Nathan Scott. So appreciate the presentation, appreciate the work being done to ensure internal audit and adequate financial controls are in place for the city to redress some of the deficiencies and material weaknesses that have been noted in the state audit. The one thing that I saw missing from the report, and this is going to be the same item in another issue, is the executive summary page. And I know Ms. Bigsby put that in place. I think Mr. Monk can appreciate the value of this because you don't have to look and read to just see what's highlighted and summarized in one page. I know that this may be inconvenient, particularly and somewhat embarrassing at times where Ms. Bigsby had reported things that showed a lack of internal financial controls, but I think this is a valuable piece of paper that needs to be included in audit reports because the executive summary, boom, 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 what we did, what we found, and I don't have to read down pages into it to understand what the audit did and what it concluded. And I think that's valuable, not only for transparency, but for the benefit and edification of the commission and members of the audit committee to have a crystal clear summary page as to what the relevant issues are without having to read, because y'all have a lot of stuff to read. I have a lot of stuff to read to be able to come up here and speak to items, but I think this is of value, and it is missing, and it seems to have gone by the wayside, and I would respectfully ask that the executive summary be included in future reports, because I think it provides added value, and it actually probably saves some paper in terms of the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scott. Anyone else?
I just want to say I endorse that.
Okay.
That's it. I mean,
So the reason we ask folks to come on up is that you can't be recorded from over there, so.
Don Fields, I wanted to say I support an executive summary. I believe I said such a thing several years ago, actually, because in my business, which was government business, aerospace, we always had an executive summary because the reports are so thick. If you have to read, a 900-page document, you want a summary page right up front, much like JLAC did, where here are our 18 findings. This is what we did. Here are our 18 findings. So I encourage an executive summary. It would make it easier for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Fields. Okay, back to the committee. All in favor of accepting the report, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. Madam Clerk.
Our next item is 2023-227, Continuous Monitoring Program, Part 1, P cards, with the recommendation that the Audit Committee review, approve, and recommend the City Commission accept the City Auditor's report.
Brecca Anderson, Interim City Auditor, Mayor, Commissioners, Committee Member Monk. We began our continuous monitoring program. We just launched that. This is our first quarter finishing it. These are micro reports, so they're just a small quarterly report. We have a full report that will be presented at the end of this year. So this is our first one that required, designing, and our staff has been working hard to put it together. This first time we're looking at P cards. The next time we are going to expand it and look at other areas of fiscal responsibility as well. So I'd like to call up Diana Ferguson-Satterthwaite, Internal Audit Manager, as well as Peter Damaris, Staff Auditor, who completed this audit.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Committee Member Monk, Commissioner Chestnut, and our legal officer. I am Diana Ferguson-Satterthwaite, and with me is Peter Damaris, Staff Auditor. I will be presenting the conclusions, and Peter will first give you an overview of the audit. I would like to use this opportunity to thank the management, staff, charter officers for both GRU and the general government for their cooperation, their accessibility, and the overall professionalism during this review. Without their assistance, we would not have been able to complete this review. Okay, so now Peter will begin.
Good afternoon, Mayor Ward, Mayor Pro Tem Duncan Walker, Committee Member Monk, Commissioner Chestnut. Like Diana said, I will be bringing you through the introduction portion of the first part of the 2023 continuous audit. Can I have the next slide, please? And actually one more. Thank you. Okay, so as we know, the city has two separate departments, or two separate entities, general government and GRU, which each have their own separate P-card programs. Each have their own processes and controls when it comes to authorized cardholders, single transaction limits, monthly transaction limits, required documentation, and necessary approvals. Next slide, please. The objective of the 2023 continuous audit program was to establish a program for continuous auditing of citywide purchasing, card transactions, travel expense reimbursement policy and activity, and certain payroll transactions to reduce the city's risk of fraud, waste, and abuse. Our scope of this audit covered city purchasing card transactions from January 1st, 2021 to December 30th, 2022. And it also included a review for fraud, waste, and abuse. Next slide, please. And as stated, it's broken into 4 parts. This first part strictly covered just purchasing card transactions. In the future, it will also include travel reimbursement transactions and certain payroll transactions. And with that, I'm going to bring Diana back up. Thank you.
Next slide, please. Okay, so as Peter mentioned, in this phase of the audit, we focused on purchasing card transaction, and the transactions covered were from January 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2022. 612 cardholders used their city purchasing card to do transactions totaling approximately $20.3 million. GRU cardholders accounted for 385 of those cards, and the general government for 227. Next slide, please. And here is just a graphical breakdown of the total P-card spend by location. So GRU cardholders accounted for 56% of the $20.3 million, which is approximately $11.4 million. And the general government cardholders 44%, which was approximately $8.9 million. Next slide, please. In this phase of the audit, we selected a risk-based sample of 170 P-card transactions, which was approximately 1% of the total spend. We reviewed transactions for the following: proper approval, ensure that purchases were business-related activities, the single transaction limit was not circumvented, limits were reasonable and approved, sales tax was not assessed, and if it was refunded, and that there was receipt and documentation provided for purchases. Next slide, please. In this audit, we did not identify any fraudulent P-card purchases. For most transactions, receipts were provided upon request. We identified opportunities for improvement around spending limits, oversight and monitoring, documentation, the payment of sales tax, and approval of P-card purchases. We also noted that the city has separate P-card procedures, and this resulted in inconsistencies in internal control. And on the next 2 slides, we basically summarize our findings by location. Can you go to the next slide for me, please? For general government, the opportunities for improvement identified related to transactions and credit limits, the payment of sales tax, and the P-card spend policy compliance. 3 cardholders were not assigned monthly credit limits. The employees were given declining balance cards with limits ranging from $250,000 to $700,000. We reviewed transactions for compliance with the single transaction limits, and we found that for 7 of 18 transactions, cardholders made split payments to circumvent their single transaction limit. These 7 transactions were related to 4 invoices. 2 of 14 transactions reviewed for payment of sales tax. We found that tax was paid but not refunded. 3 cardholders made purchases with their P-cards for items that were not allowed per administrative policy, and 1 cardholder's home internet service was paid. Next slide, please. For GRU, the opportunities we identified related to transaction and credit limits, spend authorization, documentation, and the policy compliance. From our review, we saw that credit limits above 35,000 were not supported by the spending pattern for 9 cardholders. Single transaction above the threshold for obtaining competitive bidding was identified, where we identified one exception, one of 3 transactions, one of 3 cardholders we selected. For 2 of 5 transactions, the results were inconclusive as additional information was required. For these transactions, the cardholder was on leave and had new management, so we needed to wait until the cardholder returned, and this will be reviewed in the next phase of the audit. For authorization of 80 transactions reviewed, 22 were not approved by the P-card approver. We had 3 of 80 transactions that were not supported by invoice or receipts. We looked at 12 transactions relating to meals, and 2 of the 12, the attendees were not included on the receipt as required by policy. Next slide, please. General government and the GRU provided action plans in response to the audit observations. For general government, their action plans are already in progress, and they include monitoring P-card usage. For compliance and recommend approval as needed, they will evaluate declining balance cards and recommend improvements as needed. They'll also be evaluating mandatory annual refresher training for all card holders, and they will be doing this with HR. They will be reviewing their policy to ensure alignment with Workday and current practice. And they plan to share their updated practice procedure with GRU for comments and evaluate for consistency, and where operationally feasible, they will make the necessary adjustments. They plan to have the procedures updated by May 2023. Next slide, please. For GRU, their P cards are managed using a decentralized process. Like general government, their action plan is already in progress, and it includes training for each officer as needed. They'll also evaluate the necessity for annual refresher training. They started reviewing their credit limits in FY22, and they provided recommendations to departments for consideration. Any requests for adjustments, they will process in March. Going forward, GRU will also review general government's procedures, and where operationally feasible, they will make recommendations for changes to their procedures for review and approval by their general manager. And thank you. Okay, and are there any questions?
Thank you very much. Commissioner?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for this presentation. I'm curious, and to be fair, I'm not really sure that this question is for you, but as I hear certain numbers thrown around, I'm just curious. $700,000, how many people, and maybe this is addressed to the general manager and or the city manager, how many people have P cards with $700,000 limits?
So the declining balance cards were 3.
3 people
3
have
cards, and their ranges were 2. So one was 250, one was 500, and one was 700,000.
And who are those? Are those department heads? Or you said 250, what were the other 2 amounts?
500,000.
And 700, okay. And who did you say they were?
I don't have their names. I'll leave that to.
Mayor,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem, if I may.
Yes, ma'am.
So we do have that information. I'm not sure if management would have that with them as well, but we don't have it on hand with us.
Okay.
But she can look and see that information if you'd like. I'm not even really sure if it's GRU, GG. So we do have our city manager here who'd like to speak to that. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
great.
members of the committee, Commissioner Chestnut, I don't have the names either. However, I pulled all P cards. I signed one P card per department. There are exceptions depending on what justification comes in from the departments for the need for P cards. In the auditor's report, I think there's a number here, total P cards. I'm assuming this is citywide between GG and GRU, 612. So you asked the question, how many P cards? I don't know whether that was a general question or whether it was specific to the decline in balances, but total P cards across the city, GG and GRU, General Government, and Gainesville Regional Utility is 612. But as of last week, I did pull all P cards. I have actually, prior to that, pulled P cards from individuals who were not in compliance. But at this point, all P cards have been disabled, with the exception of those that, when speaking to the directors like GPD and in the fire department, some in parks, I have authorized more than one. But generally speaking, it's one per department.
One per department. Thank you, Manager. Manager, GRU, Tony, if you wouldn't mind. Thank you.
Sure, Mr. Mayor, Commissioner. So specifically, your question is how many people have cards? So
Yes,
I think 385 employees have cards at GRU, and they're all in different departments. So like, so you might have people at a power plant or people out in the field that work in the field. And so it's spread out by those departments, and then those department heads oversee those card holders, and they approve all of their purchases because they know specifically the items that they're doing and the things they're working in. The overall spend is fairly small compared to the operation and maintenance expense, but it still is a significant amount, as you can see from the audit.
right, okay. Thank you very much for that. And thank you to Manager Curry. I think you would expect a question like that when you see numbers like that coming across the screen, particularly now. Thank you very much. I concur.
Commissioner Chestnut, yes.
Thank you. I would like to get that information on who has those cards,
Okay.
on the three people that have those cards. And is that something that you all think is a normal, standard operating procedure for people to walk around with a card with $750,000 of the city's money on it?
Mayor, Commissioners, if I may, I believe management would be able to, the city manager would be able to speak to that probably at a later date. I know that from my recollection, that they were typically people who bought larger price items. So that's why they were evaluating it. We did look at how much was spent as well and said, okay, maybe it needs to be evaluated because all of it wasn't spent. So they're evaluating. So in the action plan, general government did say that they were going to evaluate the need and the use of those three.
Okay,
Yes.
well, I think at some point, I would like to see that information. And so I think what I'm hearing is that, 1,300 people have P cards. Is that correct?
612.
Oh, so of the 612, 385 is GRU. Okay. I'm just concerned with that. As you all recall, a few years ago, we had some problems with the P card, some serious problems with expenditures. So this is just concerning. I'm quite concerned with the amount of money that someone is allowed to have on a card that ties the city to it. And so perhaps in the future we'd need to look at a policy for that or some justification for why someone would need a card at $750,000, $500,000, or $250,000. Now those cards are in general government. Okay, so GRU, yeah. If it was GRU, I could see buying some major piece of equipment. But I'm just concerned, so I'd like to get that information. Thank you for letting me interrupt here.
Commissioner Dr. Walker, you had something else?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. To that point, come on, yeah,
So one of those cars, good afternoon.
good afternoon.
One of the cars is actually held by GRU IT, is for purchasing IT supplies. But, I do see your point that, it's been a standing practice for a long time. It doesn't mean, it's right. So now is the opportunity to, review those processes and see whether that's appropriate.
Thank you. So to that point, my question is really more so about oversight. And I hear now that we have the city manager and the general manager that are now making some tweaks to, first of all, we pulled back all of them. On the GG side, overstood, yes, on the GG side, they're not there, but on the GRU side, they are still there. There's still people who have access to large amounts of money on P cards, and my question is about how are we overseeing these individuals and what's happening? I did hear you, Tony, say that different managers are responsible for their different areas, but what type of reporting process do they have? Does this reach all the way up to you? How often does that occur, et cetera, et cetera? Because I remember, and I think, I don't know if we can laugh about it now, but the very first day that I started working for the city, which was back, I want to say in 2017, I was on my way into the museum, and I stopped to pick up a Gainesville Sun. And on the cover of the Gainesville Sun was a story about the use of a P card that I don't think anybody in here had anything to do with, but it was a little shocking because someone had had the opportunity to repeatedly spend money, and unfortunately, this particular department was not overseeing literally for probably I think it was 2 years. There was no oversight of the spending, and there was no accountability in that regard. So my question is about how are we overseeing these individuals who have these cards, the spending limits, et cetera, because I remember thinking that day as I was pulling up to my new job, what am I going into?
Yeah, so let me touch on a couple of things, Mr. Mayor. So each credit card holder has a limit. So the GRU credit cards, they each have a limit on that, and it's based upon the kind of purchasing they do. So I think the vast majority of those are like either a $2,000 or a $5,000 limit. There are some cards that get up to like $35,000, I think maybe even $40,000 based on what kind of activity that they do. So there's, first of all, that's limit. And one of the things that the audit did was said, well, some of those limits, the historic spend doesn't seem to match the limit, so why don't you look at those? And so we're doing that right now. Like we've sent out to all of the managers that, hey, some of these limits need to be adjusted downward. So one is limit. Another is that they have approvals every month. So a supervisor of somebody that holds a P card approves those purchases, looks at receipts, makes sure that it's part of the business, it's in the budget, and then that they have receipts to support that. And that's happening every month as part of the oversight. So that's kind of what's in the regular monthly rhythm of how you're looking at expenses and making sure they're appropriate.
Okay, thank you, Tony. I see Manager Curry behind you.
Mr. Mayor, so what we have found in conversations with the finance director is that we have employees who are actually using the P card versus using the purchase order, which is the preferred way to make a purchase. It's easier to use the card versus going back and using a purchase order, which is what should be used. And so that is what has been reinforced in the information that I shared with departments last week as I pulled the cards. But the finance director has reinforced the importance of us in pulling the cards back, only issuing them where necessary beyond one per department, and making sure that we can provide the training necessary before they are reissued in any number higher than we already have established at this point.
Thank you. That was very valuable information. Okay, thank you very much. I conclude.
Member Monk?
Yes.
Yeah, you're good. The red light's good.
I did have a couple of questions, but first of all, you mentioned the authorization process at GRU, but if you look at this table, there are 80 items sampled and 22 exceptions related to having authorization were found. Sounds like there's an issue with proper authorization being performed, and I think that's something that needs to be flushed out.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, so coming out of the audit, that is something, the authorizations are sometimes late, so we have deadlines and they're not met on the deadlines. And so one of the things coming out of the audit was to improve the training and setting of those deadlines, and then also the reporting of when people miss those deadlines and they don't authorize it in time, so that upper management can then address those. So both of those things we're making sure are put in place to follow up and make sure we don't have that gap that was identified.
Okay, thank you. Also, I was concerned with the single limit adherence where payments are being split. Now, this is in general government, not GRU. That is a real issue in my mind because it's just, well, it's not just wrong, but it could be criminal in some instances. Additionally, you had, in general government, 100% of the 3 items sampled for exceptions for where these did not comply with the policy. Even though it's a very small sample, 3 out of 3 is still 100%. So that needs to be looked at specifically in addition. Now, I was also very concerned about the item where the purchase was split between more than one transaction in order to get it under the approved limit for that purchase. Now that tells me there's 2 problems. One is your employee requested that it be split so that it could go through. But the second one even bothers me more, and that is that you have a merchant out there who's willing to take adverse actions against the city in order to make the sale. There ought to be some consequence to that vendor, whoever they are. If they're going to accommodate fraud, they shouldn't be a vendor for the city in the future, in my mind. So I would ask that you look at that. And I did have a question as to what the policy on home internet service being paid by the city is, because clearly some people have it, others don't. But I'm not clear on what is the policy. Who's authorized?
So that was for one of the fire employees. I believe it was because of the public safety that, he had to access the one of the softwares after hours. But again, as I said before, it's time to evaluate whether that is still true today.
I don't have a problem if that is the situation. That's fine, but I wasn't aware of what the policy was.
There is no policy. This is in Gainesville Fire and Rescue. Chief Dixon wasn't actually aware of it until the auditor brought it to his attention that was in fact the case, and said that he clearly would be looking into it. It is not something that we support.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Monk. So I had a question about just a couple of things. I wanted to clear up, Mr. Cunningham, on the P-card approver did not approve P-card purchases. Does that mean that those were never approved, or were they late on the the 25% or so that were not approved? Was it a late function or?
I'm looking at the auditor, I believe it would
Okay.
just be a late, but I'm not positive on those 22. I don't know if.
Yeah.
You don't have to
Mr.
follow
Mayor,
Yes.
Commissioners, if I may,
Oh.
with those, there is a sweep process where things are approved if it is late, from our understanding at GRU. And so they didn't make it under that wire, whether there was an approval or anything later. I don't think we went back to see if that, we did ask if they approved it. They did not. So if it's not done by the date, it's swept
Okay.
and approved.
Gotcha, okay. So my other question would be for, on the general government side, on the 1/7 of the sales tax purchases where we ended up paying sales tax, what's our process for going back and correcting that? And did we do that?
I do believe our payables actually monitors that. If the sales tax is under $1, so we don't require the employees to pay back. And I do believe one of them is under $1.
Okay.
So the two instances that were found.
Gotcha.
So, yeah.
Okay, great, thank you. All right, any other questions?
So, Mr. Mayor, it seems to me then, and I agree with Ms. Wong, that one way to monitor all of that is to use purchase orders. Because the purchase order has to come in written, reviewed, and approved, and then you would see whether or not we were paying taxes or not. But it seems that to me, would be the better way to go. It may be time consuming, however, but it may save us some money and save us some heartache.
Thank you, Commissioner Chestnut. I think that there are probably cases where that needs to be the case. I think there are probably also some other things where it's hard to wait to get a job done, and it might not be possible in all circumstances. But clearly, we need to look at it. And I know on the other end, on the local small business end, they would certainly rather be paid up front than wait a month or so or two to be paid, which goes to other reports that we get from other departments about making it easier to do business with the city. So it's a fine line that we must walk. Right, agreed. Okay, I don't have any other questions, so somebody want to make a motion?
I do have one other
Yes.
thing I'd like to make sure, I'm not sure if we mentioned that the structure for administering pre-cards differs in general government and GRU. General government has a centralized process where finance is involved in that. And then GRU, it is the responsibility of the division officers to do that. So that's where I think a lot of your questions are coming from, is that it's just a difference in process that's been set up. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I wanted to talk about that as well. I am very interested in bringing the processes together, and I know that that's inconvenient, and I know that it's inconvenient is not even the word. I know it's difficult, but it is something that I would like us to standardize as we move forward. But that's a longer conversation, I recognize.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Right. So let's go to the public and come back for a motion.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners, Nathan Scott. So with respect to the declining balance cards, that was a big issue that I had. I want to thank Commissioner Desmond Duncan Walker, Commissioner Chestnut for honing in on an issue spotting on some of the same issues that citizens spot. The limits seem to be excessively way too high. 250,000, 500,000, 750,000. I mean, that's over, $1.5 million of declining balance. I understand the value of P cards. I've worked in the commercial world, and I understand purchase orders. I think the staff recommendation, talking about recommended improvement as needed, stops far short of implementing the necessary corrective action that's been discussed that I'm bringing to your attention. Commissioner Desmond Duncan Walker asked a very specific question as to who has the 3 P cards with limits of 250,000, 500,000, and 750,000. Unfortunately, that question didn't get answered. That's an additional area of concern because that's a lot of money on the client balance card. That's like giving away a gift card Given the history, I think we need to get some answers to those questions. The response to your question was how many people have P cards. Wasn't responsive to the question. If we don't know the basic answer to who has cards with declining balances of $1.5 million, then you as commissioners and city staff are not effectively doing their job in terms of providing effective management oversight to mitigate potential fraud. The other issue is, seems like the city manager has taken recent action to shut down the majority of the P cards. That's to be commended. The single limit and split payments that Mr. Monk mentioned, I share your concern, sir. That is just unacceptable, and corrective action needs to be taken immediately. We need to either fire those employees, have further investigation, or make sure that corrective action is put in place immediately to prevent reoccurrence of that. The number of exceptions noted on the city and GRU side seems to be excessive, warranting corrective actions and enhance internal financial controls. And I'm also very concerned about exceeding the competitive bid limits. You're using P cards not only to circumvent your limit by multiple swipes, you have merchants willing to do that, but you're also using it to circumvent the normal process, which provides value to the taxpayers that have to pay these bills to make sure we're getting the best value for the city government and GRU. I think we heard that GRU IT might have one of these cards. I'm not sure. The limit seems to be very excessive. I understand the value of the P card, but I'm not a fan of declining balance P cards. If you got something to charge on the P card, charge it. The city will pay the bill upon appropriate review. Thank you.
Don feels evidently today is my turn to be ditto. I really thank Mr. Monk for his quick thinking and catching the errors. I want to thank Desmond Duncan Walker and Cynthia Chestnut as well, and Mr. Ward, you're heading in the right direction here as well, it sounds like. All I know is when I had a card, I was very much limited, and I wasn't high up in the system. So these big guys really concern me that it would seem to me if you needed balance or a credit balance that high, that you would know exactly what you were going out to purchase and its price ahead of time, and you would have pre-authorized approval to spend that money. I'm not sure why you even need it at this point. I mean, it's easy to have them, but I got called on the carpet once when I got to the airport late because of ice and snow on the freeway, and I just left the car in the lot, and I had to pay on my card the filling up at the tank at the higher rate. So thank you for heading in the right direction. This is one of the things that was on Carlos Holt's audit back in, 2017 now? And so we still have a ways to go, it sounds like, to get the policies in place. I'm very curious on what the process is on how many checks are being done, who checks who, because sometimes, I mean, the immediate supervisor checks, and then their supervisor checks that they're doing their job, and is that enough? And if it isn't, the audit committee is the one that will have to find that and fix it. And I hope they do quarterly checks at least to see how the process is working once it gets established. Thank you.
Okay, let's get a motion on the table.
I move staff's recommendation.
We have a motion and a second to move staff to accept staff's recommendation. All in favor, say aye, please.
Aye.
And any opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. Madam Clerk.
Our next item is 2023-228, City Auditor Quarterly Update, with a recommendation that the Audit Committee review, approve, and recommend the City Commission accept the City Auditor's quarterly report.
Welcome back, Madam Auditor.
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. Committee Member Monk. Thank you so much. Okay, if we can pull up the slide, you're ahead of me. Thank you. Okay, each quarter we bring in information. We present our quarterly report as we started in 2020 of the activities and updates for the last quarter. If we can go to the next slide, please. That's our internal audit team. You've met them all on today, all of us. Next slide, please. Except for Miyaki, she's upstairs, of course. All right. Okay, citywide strategic plan focus. We also focus on the citywide strategic plan when we're conducting audits as well. Each of our audits, whatever's on deck for us, it addresses typically all of the strategic plan items. Next slide, please. Audit plan update, that's the same thing we talked about earlier about that we're not going to make any adjustments to the audit plan at this time. We're already looking at some pretty significant risk areas, and we're going to remain in that vein until we reevaluate in light of any changes that management is making. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, recently completed projects. We just talked about the enterprise risk assessment and annual report. Next slide. And we also just went over the part 1 of the continuous audit program. Part 2 will be presented, of course, at our June audit committee. Work in progress. For this one is the Ironwood Golf Course Financial Controls Review. Our objective is to review the adequacy and effectiveness of select Ironwood Golf Course financial policies, procedures, operational procedures, and internal controls. We are in the planning process of that review, and hopefully we'll be entering field work. We will be entering field work in the month of March. Next slide, please. All right, this is also the continuous auditing program that I just referred to. Part 2 is coming up. At this, what we'll be looking at in part 2 is the P cards and the travel expense. Okay, next slide, please. All right. Okay, this is the case management system user access. I'd like to call up Lisa Sedzik to come up and present this slide.
Thank you, Brecca. Again, good afternoon, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, Mr. Monk, and the charter officers. As an IT audit, we have the case management system user access review that has been scheduled. The objective is to assess the adequacy and effectiveness of the user access management and related controls. We are currently finalizing our scope, so we should be complete with planning in the next week or two and hope to start field work in the next week or two with completion of this audit in May. As an IT audit, just want to remind you that this is confidential and this would be exempt from public records. Any questions? Okay. Next slide, please. And this moves us on to the periodic monitoring piece of the update for you all. As you know, this gives us an opportunity to provide you with a status update of the periodic monitoring that our office performs. Next slide, please. And this starts with the first one, which is enterprise IT governance. And I do have T.C. Kelly, who is the Director of Enterprise Strategy and Governance for IT, as well as Anessa Coffey, Manager of Governance and Compliance for IT, who is attending via Zoom if you have any questions after I complete my presentation. The risk area for this is moderate, and progress has been made in the following areas. For enterprise IT governance, IT is in the process of shifting the current meetings to an IT steering committee. And this new committee would actually combine GRU and general government people to kind of collaborate on the oversight. Second, the mobile device management policy has been revised. It is currently in review by the charter officers. And interesting to note that technology has been procured and is currently being tested as well. And then the last area is cybersecurity, and just wanted to let you know that the IT audit team has moved forward, and the team is actually in phase 2 of their plan. Do you all have any questions? Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. At this time, I would like to call Brecca Anderson back up. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Lisa. The next area that we periodically monitor, of course, is the general government financial reporting for internal controls. Also, we did complete an ICFR internal control over financial reporting audits, and that came up. And of course, some of the actual action items from those were placed on hold last year to give management time to work through some of the workday issues and all of the other challenges. So now it's back with a new revised date for those areas. And so the new due date is April the 7th of this year for those action plans from the internal control over financial reporting audit for general government. Okay, and so we'll be going in May to look at those areas. That includes the month, quarter, and annual financial close processes, cash and key balance sheet account reconciliations, and timely research of variances, grant management processes and controls, and readiness for the GASB as updates, including the leases, 87. Okay, I also have Ms. Sue Wong here, who'd like to make an introduction.
Good afternoon. I do have some information on the declining cards. We have the 3 individuals. One is Jean Clark. She is with the GRU IT. She buys our computers. The other one is Chanda Morris. She is with Fleet, and she buys Fleet parts for us. The third person is Rhonda Carney. She is with the RTS, and she buys the bus parts for us. With regards to the few items that are discussed here, I'm happy to report that our FY 2022 audit is underway. The cash is materially reconciled as well as with other bank balance sheet accounts. And for the month, quarter, annual financial close, we developed a month-end close checklist. It's a very detailed checklist. We are using it to guide us to close the months. We started back in October. We are learning the processes in Workday. So we keep defining the processes and refining the processes in terms of the month, quarter, annual close. As to the grant management processes and controls, we started tracking the grants and developed a grant, we call it grant roll forward schedule. Basically, it identifies the multi-year grants. It tells us how much has been spent, how much is awarded, how much has been spent year to date. So we're planning on meeting with departments quarterly to review the schedule. As to the GASB updates, so GASB 87, it's, Mr. Monk knows, it's a monster project. We are in evaluating our workload and the staffing level. We really think that is to our benefit to outsource this GASB 87 to a third party. So we are expecting to have this done in about 2 weeks, just in time for FY 2022 audit. We are learning and documenting the processes, and so next year we're going to bring this back in-house to do the GASB 87 along with GASB 96. That's the subscription-based IT services. And also, we've been talking about the staffing level in financial services. We have identified a candidate for the controller position who is a CPA. So he's going to be a valuable addition to my team. He's going to start in April. So
Very good. Thank you.
Okay, next slide, please. Okay, this is our culture corner. Next slide. Okay, so in 2021, of course, the culture assessment was completed, and we had 5 areas of where recommendations were put forth for the cultural assessment of the city, the entire city. Next slide, please. We have been receiving updates from management. Number 1, of course, has been completed for some time, which is enhanced policy research workflow. Number 2 is leadership training. That is, some of the training is underway. The courses were launched in early 23. There's a couple more that may be underway, and we'll look at that and speak with management as well. Number 3 is the policy management framework is underway. A work group has been established on that one, who's looking at the policies and procedures that may affect the city of Gainesville, of course. Number 4 is the internal conflict resolution. That one has been implemented and it's ongoing. The city launched classes in December of 2022. And number 5 is employee suggestions. It is in progress. If you'd like additional information, I do have Ms. Laura Gretz here, as well as Chief Jamie Kernick here to speak to those items.
Very good. Okay, Commissioner Duncan Walker, do you have a question?
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I actually have a couple of questions about the leadership training. Thank you, Laura. If you wouldn't mind speaking to us just briefly about what some of those opportunities are. What kind of leadership training are we doing?
Absolutely. So good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners, and Committee Member Monk. My name is Laura Gretz, HR Director here at the City of Gainesville. So we have a variety of classes that our Learning and Organizational Development team have launched. We were fortunate enough to hire a new manager for that group back in 2022, and he's done some amazing things in a very quick amount of time. So he has launched a masterclass series of courses for our leaders. We launched that in January of 2023. It's a set of 12 courses that help city employees become high-level leaders. So it's geared towards existing employees who are looking to sharpen the saw, if you will, to borrow from a Stephen Covey term, to just get better at what they're doing. In addition, the team has created 33 interactive leadership e-learning courses that were developed and launched through Workday, and that was launched in December of 2022. Those are open to any of our employees who are looking to learn how to be a leader, think they might want to become a leader, so that they can understand what that's about, and then of course for existing leaders to kind of shore up those skills. In addition, they've created something that we're calling City Learns. It's an initiative that was also launched in January of 2023. It has 9 to 12 modules, and it provides high-level training to specific departments around a variety of categories such as culture, strategy, team building, psychometric type measures, and it's all to help our different departments provide some interventions that help them to pinpoint specific issues that they might be having as a department to try to improve those. And finally, we are looking to bring back Emerging Leaders, which is a leadership development program that we had several years ago that was kind of put on pause. We are looking to launch that in January of 2024.
Thank you, Laura.
You're welcome.
What is staff saying about their experiences of all of these? I'm always curious to know when we do these types of training exercises or push forward these types of initiatives, what's staff saying? What's their experience like?
So, well, you know, I'm a bit biased, right, because it is in my shop. But I have received some comments. There was an attendee at one of our recent master classes that said, and she has a bit of a commute from where she lives to coming to the office, and she said after taking one of the first master classes that she just recently attended, she thought about the content of the class the entire way home that evening, kept thinking about it while she was at home that night, and again driving back into work about how she could take what she learned to apply to her regular job and what she's doing. They're relatively new and recently launched. Our Learning and Organizational Development Manager, Jordan Vale, is very good about keeping a pulse on what's working and what's not. So I trust he will be working very closely with our leaders and just employees in general to understand, is this meeting the need, or is there something else that we need to do in order to help close that gap for folks?
Thank you.
You're
And how will we evaluate that? Are we doing surveys? Are you doing focus
He
groups?
typically he does a variety of things. So some surveys, but then also just some one-on-one interviews with folks. So they cover it in a variety of different ways.
Awesome. Stay right there.
Yes.
One more quick question, I believe. So something that's always a major concern for me is how we do address internal conflict resolution. And so if you could speak to that a little more for us.
Sure, I'd be happy to. So prior to me coming into this role, this was already being worked by our learning and organizational development team. So they actually brought in a third-party vendor to teach conflict resolution, and we actually took what we call a train the trainer approach, whereby employees who registered for those classes not only learn the material, but we help them to actually be trainers so that we could kind of disseminate this information across the organization. So in the report, when it talks about things getting launched in December of 2022, that was actually our first round of peer-to-peer training classes. So the idea now is that we continue to just grow that group of trainers so that they have that information at their disposal to help with conflict resolution.
Okay. What else do we use?
So, I mean, there's a variety of other ways. So, many times we may get calls from managers or employees in different departments that are having issues either with an employee or a group of employees. So depending on what the issue is, HR could intake that information in a couple of different places. So sometimes it's learning and organizational development. That's usually the most of them come in through them. Some will come in through our employee relations and labor relations division. So they typically will handle grievances, employee discipline where there's been performance issues. But because of their regular contact with departments, sometimes they provide the intake, usually, and then sometimes I get calls, or just other folks in HR. When that happens, we usually huddle together as a team and talk about what the issue is, what's at stake, and then we may reach out to get more information. And depending on what the nature of the issue is, we deploy a resolution and provide a kind of a plan forward based on whatever the information is that's been provided.
And it's not always you, right? So we have other departments that help to move in this space.
We do. So I neglected to mention there's if things escalate, we do have our Office of Equity and Inclusion that is available. So if folks feel that they've not been able to reach a resolution with our office or what they've encountered, they can take it up to the Office of Equity and Inclusion. Typically that follows things around workplace harassment, discrimination, things of that nature.
Got you. So you're not always the first step. Most times you're the first step.
Many
but sometimes
times,
it can
but not always. Some people, our employees have a choice, right? They can always come to us, but we give them the opportunity, if they'd like to go to the Office of Equity and Inclusion, they could do that first.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Mr. Mayor, if you'll indulge me for just a few moments, because I do see Mr. Folson here. I'd like to ask him to come forward and speak a little bit to this internal conflict resolution, Mr. Folson. I'm very interested in the process that happens in your office.
Zariah Folson, Director for the Office of Equity and Inclusion. As Laura said, many of them, Mayor and Commissioners and Mr. Mott, always a pleasure to see you. Many of them come through HR, but employees do have the option, and they do take it, to come straight to us as well. So either sometimes we mediate between the department and the employee, or we work with HR to come to some form of a mediation process in most situations. That's one option that they do have. It is utilized infrequently, but when it is utilized, it is successful. Because both sides at the end of the day are really trying to come to a resolution. And so that's always helpful whenever we have to get involved at our step and our level. And sometimes it's not around a protected class. Traditionally, when people go the protected class route, our encouragement to them, advice to them is have you talked to your supervisor yet? Have you gone through the HR process yet? Because it may be something that they can rectify on the front end before you come to us. And so many times employees take that option, and many times that employee that does take the option, it does work out in their favor, and they come to an amicable decision. But they do have the option of coming to us, and they do take it at times, but infrequently.
Okay. You and I have had a few conversations, actually several, in which I expressed concern about the chilling effect that some staff people feel in coming to your office. Because unfortunately, sometimes what happens when one files a report, due to the process, it gets back to a department head, and things become tenuous between an employee and between their manager. What has happened, if anything at all, out of your office, Mr. Folston, to try to mitigate that situation? Have you started working on strategies to try to combat that? What are your thoughts on that? How can we really start working on that? Because that's been quite an issue for a number of years. I remember it when I was within the city, and I've heard it several times since then. So I'm really, really concerned, because it's important that that office be able to operate functionally and efficiently. What are we doing to mitigate or resolve that chilling effect?
That's a good point, good question. I had heard of that prior, haven't heard of that subsequently. If it is, that's something that we continue to try to address daily. I think part of that is making sure staff feel comfortable in terms of what the process is. Many times in the past, and even sometimes now, we have to do a lot in terms of educating. Here's what the process is, because people, when they get in the process, it's not a quick process. There's not many times a quick turnaround, and sometimes there's not a turnaround of what they want to see happen, especially if the supervisor has been documenting. So there are two different scenarios that sometimes affect people in terms of a chilling effect. One of them is when their supervisor has been adequately documenting behavior, and now they're coming back to us to claim retaliation or harassment or whatever the issue is, the protected class is, but the supervisor has been documenting performance. And so the performance is the issue in many of those situations. In the event, though, that the supervisor has not been documenting it, yes, it does open us up, and I say us collectively because I do work for the city as well, but it does open us up to other challenges as we move forward. One of the things that we've been doing on both sides of the house with supervisors and managers is really articulating and teaching them. I think we've had a conversation before about performance evaluations. I'm more of an employee feedback guy than I am an employee evaluation. I'll be candid. And the reason for that is I remember as an employee, a supervisor waiting 6 months, something that happened 6 months ago, waiting to now deem me 6 months later on a performance evaluation. I'm like, man, you could have told me that 2 weeks ago or when it happened. So we've been really educating. Our supervisor has really embraced the fact that you need to document. Don't wait because you're trying to be helpful. When that person is not performing the way they need to be performed, please document it. And on the employee side, saying to them, hey, listen, utilize your first line of defense, which is your supervisor, and then utilize HR as well. But in the event none of those work, come to us so that we can get involved. We can properly document, but like I said earlier, we can inform you of what the process is and what are the steps that you need to take place and be prepared for. And yes, we've counseled employees that, hey, when you do come to us, if you're feeling a chilling effect back in your department, please come back and let us know that so we can be involved and so that we can provide some level of education possibly to the manager to say, hey, just be aware that just because a person is filed with us doesn't mean that now you need to start documenting on something that you didn't document before. So you got to make sure that you're following these steps. So it's part of our role is to educate not just the employee, but also to the supervisor. And I'm thankful that both have been open to counseling in terms of what needs to be taking place.
Okay. Complete transparency. I want to see more done with regards to helping all staff feel comfortable coming to that office. I am receiving phone calls and being met in grocery stores, et cetera, by people who just don't feel safe in the workplace environment. They feel like after they come through the Office of Equal EI that a target is put on their back. That's a quote that I hear from a lot of staff. And they feel like the process then, once they return back into their workspace, becomes this person went and reported me as a manager. And now it becomes really challenging to do the job, for that person to manage them in a fair way. So I really want to see, Mr. Folston, some sort of process come out of that office that helps to sincerely cut back on that. I don't know if we need to change the process. I have no idea. I don't know what kind of room and leverage that you have there, but I am deeply concerned about the voices of those individuals who kind of continue to suffer after they do what they ought to be able to do. You know, I believe that office is trying to do the job, but unfortunately, there's some sort of loophole there that I think we probably need to fix in order to make sure we're protecting the staff as best we can, and so that you can continue to do the work out of that office that you're there to do. Okay? So I certainly, I hope that we can have a conversation within the next couple of weeks about your thoughts on that.
I definitely will provide some guidance on it. I can tell you some of the things we've already done. One thing that we counsel people on that bring forth a complaint, and we counsel people not just the complainant, but the respondent as well. I think sometimes what gets lost on both sides is when you make a complaint against somebody, for whatever reason that complaint is, both sides are injured. Both sides. There's an emotional effect that affects the supervisor. There's an emotional effect that affects the employee. Both sides have to manage that in a careful way, and that's one of the things we try to challenge people who come in and make a complaint, is preparing them for, hey, this is the road ahead. It's going to be an emotional road. It's going to be a road where you're going to have to share certain things on the record. It's going to be a road that it may not come as quickly as you want because there's a process. Here's what the process is. For those that listen to our processes in our statutes, but we can give that to you, which we normally do when you come in for an intake. But you're right. I think there needs to be a level of engagement on the respondent. Respondent, for those that are listening, is the person who's making the complaint, as well as on, the respondent is the person who's responding to the complaint. So that's on the staff side if it's an employee. And then the complainant is the person who's making the complaint. So education on both sides, I think, will help the employee at the end of the day. And at the end of the day, it also help the supervisors and the managers as well. So I agree with that. I look forward to a conversation about some things in terms of the process. We are in the process of reviewing all of our policies in the Office of Equity and Inclusion. One of the policies that we are reviewing is how we handle intakes for any complaint that comes before us here at the City of Gainesville.
Thank you, Mr. Folsom.
Yep. Thank you, Mayor.
Anything else?
Nope, I conclude.
Mr. Monk, anything on that section? Okay.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Brents. Okay, next slide, please. Audit issue follow-up. Next slide. We just went through this process and kind of talked about this a little bit earlier today about what we do with any audit issues, action plans, how we monitor for that. Next slide, please. This is a snapshot tabular for ease that shows over the last 4 quarters what audit issues were closed, how many were open, so on and so forth. We do have some that were open, closed. We do have one that is in process of us reviewing the information provided, and then we have one past due. Next slide, please. Closed audit issues, I have that here. There were several audit issues placed on hold last time, so those audit issues have not come up yet. They start back circulating in April. Next slide, please. Open audit issues, this just kind of shows what audit issues are open. Next slide. Next slide, please. Okay, these are just the 4 we would like to highlight, which are the ones that were on a previous hold, so that management may complete the external audit for general government. And so those are citywide succession planning audits. There was one audit issue there. GPD property and evidence cash is actually a portion of audit issue 1. It is not the entire audit issue. GPD completed a portion, their procedural updates on that audit issue. The next part is fiscal, so it is general government finance working with them to implement that. Compliance audit report, there's one issue as well. And then the one we just mentioned, the general government internal controls over financial reporting. Next slide, please. The one that is in progress is the affirmative action plan audit. For this particular plan, Ms. Laura Goretz is the responsible party for that, the HR department, of course. And in this one, this is about the HR data, just ensuring that the reports are made available for OEI to complete affirmative action plans. Next slide. And I have received some information from her, but I just have to go through it, and it's just a timing thing. And we'll have and then, of course, if there are any changes, we'll have that in our next quarter. The past due audit issue, this one is also affirmative action plan. This is for the completion of the affirmative action plan and the post-hiring analysis. This is dependent on the HR data as well to complete, and responsible parties are working through that, and we'll have an update on next quarter. Next slide, please. Fraud hotline and investigations. Okay. Any questions on anything before? Okay. All right. For our fraud hotline and investigations, I provided that information earlier for the fiscal year at least. This is the snapshot as of February 27th, 2023. Of course, we had 9 new cases this quarter. 4 open investigations is actually down to 2 today. And then we have 8 closed investigations as of that date. We're down to, we're up to 10 on that one. Next slide. External audits. Next slide, please. The Florida Auditor General Operational Audit. Next slide. That date is wrong. Okay. All right, so we know that we're all familiar with the findings. We can just go through those findings quickly. If you can get next slide. From the Auditor General. Next slide. This is internal audit. The City Commission requested that the internal audit provide an update from management quarterly during our quarterly update of the status of the management action plans for the 18 findings from the Auditor General's office. So these are the management status updates that were provided by management as of, it says 3/6, but I think we got it on 2/20, around 2/22, 2/21, something like that. And so there may be some changes since then because we have to kind of put it through the agenda process as well. So we do have those. We do have some that are in progress. All of them have started. So there's not, none of them have not started. We have 5 completed, and then the remainder are in progress. You can go. Next slide, please. Next slide. We're going to go through that table. Keep going, please. Keep going. Keep going, please. One more. Okay. All right. External financial statement audit, GRU. Next slide, please. Let's see. Of course, fiscal year 21 was completed by Baker Tilly for GRU. Fiscal year 22 is in progress with an expected completion of March 2023. Next slide. And we will be requesting an additional audit committee meeting when those financial statements are ready, that report is ready to be presented. Next slide. General government. Fiscal year 2021, that one has been issued. Okay, next slide. And next slide. Okay, fiscal year 2022, external financial statement audit for general government. Of course, Purvis Gray is the external auditor. They have began the audit field work. They began the audit in January 2023 with final field work tentatively to start on today. And wrap up. Next slide. Our upcoming audit committee meetings are June 21st, September 18th, and December 6th. And of course, that additional one I just mentioned to be announced once we get a firmer dates on Baker Tilly's completion. Fraud, waste, and abuse hotline. We'd like to make sure everybody sees that and knows that. If they have any questions or anything, they can give us a call, anything they'd like to anonymously report. We are there. We work along with HR as well as OEI, police department, if there's anything that goes to another division and not our division. Next slide. Thank you so much for listening to our quarterly update. We appreciate you. Any questions or comments on that?
Commissioner Chestnut?
Did you indicate when the OEI will receive the affirmative action information for 2019? Then will it be due for 2020, 2021, or is it 2019 is the only time it's
That's actually, excuse me, Mayor, Commissioner, that was the date of the audit.
okay. All right.
Yes, and so the affirmative action plan has been impacted by that. I think Mr. Folston, management would be better to answer where they are
Okay.
in that, but I know it is dependent on the HR data,
Right,
which is a
right,
lot.
right. They must have that information. So have you been able to, you haven't been able, Mr. Folsom?
Hi, Zariah Folsom, Director for the Office of Equity and Inclusion. We have been able to produce AAP plans. The issue is that I don't have confidence in the data, and I don't want to bring a plan back that isn't complete. And because, as those that may not know, we base job goals on those, and in my review, the data isn't solid, and that's something that we're working on cleaning up, possibly with an outside consultant coming in to help us with our job groupings, so that we can get it more solid to where it needs to be. But right now, it's not there yet, but we do have it on the eye to have it completed, I believe, December of this year.
Okay.
Yes,
All
ma'am.
right. Thank you.
Mr. Bond? Anything? Good. Commissioner? All right,
Okay, thank you.
thank you.
I thought that needs to go through.
And, I'm sorry, do you have anything else?
I think that needs to go through. Needs to be reviewed and approved.
Right.
With no
We'll
additional.
get that motion in a second after we have the
Yep.
public. Do we have anyone from the public today for this item?
Good afternoon, Mayor, Commissioners, Mr. Monk, Nathan Scalp. So appreciate the presentation. I was concerned by the number of items on the slides that were high risk, moderate risk. I think progress has been made, but I think there's a lot of additional work to be done still in the audit, particularly on addressing some of the state issues. We heard earlier about the P cards. And I just wanted to add real quickly in passing, and I'll wrap up real quick. My time hasn't started, don't worry. I'm already not done, not even gonna, I'll bring this in less than a minute. I just wanted to remind the mayor, with all due respect, and somebody asked me to mention this, this agenda item does not have public comment at the conclusion of the meeting. It has member comment. Hopefully future meetings will embrace public comment on issues not on the agenda that relate to audit. But for the mayor's recollection, the agenda for the Audit Committee on December 13th, 2022 had public comment, as did the agenda item for April 20th, 2022. Both had public comment. I think we need to bring public comment back in the process. It's not necessarily a bad thing in these meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, do we have a motion to accept this report?
I move staff's recommendation.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that passes unanimously. And member comment?
I would just like to say thank you to staff and everyone that is present. I think we are navigating probably some of the most challenging times that any of us have ever had to navigate. And so I want you to see my smile, because scientists have said that smiles impact things on the inside of each and every one of us. And I want to just tell you that your hard work is not going unnoticed. We thank you today, tomorrow, and in the days ahead. Thank you so much to everyone in this room, to everyone who is listening, to the entire city of Gainesville. I thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Brecca, for assuming the helm. You probably had no idea that this is how you would walk into this role. And bless you for stepping into it in a very professional way. I greatly, greatly appreciate everything that you have done and all that you will continue to do. Thank you all.
Mr. Vaughn? You good? Okay. Yes, I want to echo that. I want to thank Ms. Anderson and everyone on the audit team, everyone, all staff who have worked on this. It is much appreciated. It's an ongoing process, and it always will be, even when we get to that beautiful point in the future when there are no audit findings. It will continue to be an ongoing process, and it does not end. So thank you all. I appreciate you, my colleagues, for being a part of this. And with that, we are adjourned.